Hi folks, today we're going to be pressing some different mugs. Let's take a look at them. Right, well I've just got a new box of mugs come in and they're not my standard glossy type. I was told by Sublimation that they got this new type of mug with a matte finish. Now I've never done these before, so let me just show you. I don't know if you can really see. The actual finish on them is like porcelain, sort of ceramic looking without any glaze on it or whatsoever. So I'll be quite interested to see how these come out. And also what they've done is sent me an upgrade to my mug press. In other words, what they've given me is a new circuit board to put in it. And what that is actually going to be doing is, at the moment, you can just set the temperature, set the time duration, and put your mug in. And if the mug's not up to temperature, and you close the handle on the mug will automatically start to count down. That can lead to you not having your mug up to temperature. So what they've actually done, they've been onto their suppliers and they've actually done a bit of configuration and they've come out with a new circuit board, which means that if you put your mug in too early and it's not up to temperature and you shut the handle over, the mug will not start counting down until the mug is actually reached the correct temperature which you've actually set at. Now that's probably a good idea because definitely when I started using this mug press, I was putting it in too quickly and counting down straight away, and the mugs weren't up to temperature. So it eliminates that problem, so it's a good thing now. So any new mug presses that Sublimation are selling now in the Galaxy range, the Galaxy mug press, are the same as the one I've got here, it will actually have the new circuit board fitted. So when you set it the time and when you set the duration, the temperature rather, if you put your mug in even beforehand and close the handle, it won't start counting down until it's actually reached up to temperature. So that's a little thing just to note the difference on what I have been using on this mug press of mine. So anyway, let's get on with it. Let's just show you what I've actually got here. I've just been on the internet and printed off some album covers. I used to like album covers back in the 80s, like when I used to collect records and all that. And I've pulled a few up. Just again, these ain't to sell, these are just experiments. So you're seeing them as I've printed them off on the internet and put them on my sublimation paper ready to wrap around my mug. So let's just have a quick look at what we've got. Right, so I've got myself my 3 mugs out there. These, as I said to you, are the porcelain looking. They come matte. I don't know whether you can actually see the finish on that. I'm hoping you can. But the inside of the mugs is still the same. It's only the outside covering which has got the matte finish on it. So this will be interesting to see how they come out like. And I've just printed off 3 sort of mug wraps here with some album covers. Now, as I said to you, these are all copyrighted images. I don't want you to go on there and expect to sell them. These are just from my own personal use at the end of the day, and just to show you some colour variations, how they're going to look on these mugs. So let's turn the mug press on. So here we go. As I say, this is my Galaxy mug press now. So I'm just going to turn it on at the back. So as I said to you, we're just going to let this heat up now. And as I say, it doesn't matter whether you close the handle or not. If you normally close the handle, as you would have done before, as I did do before, it would start counting down. But it's not going to start counting down until it's reached its actual temperature. So there's a little bonus for you there. Now let's try and answer a few questions before that's heating up as to problems people are having with their sublimation with their mugs or mug presses or whatever. And one of the problems I constantly get asked is my blacks are turning out brown. What can I do about it? Well, 9 times out of 10, if you're using the Sublimation Sawgrass inks, as I do, and you do tend to overheat them for too long, as I said, the variables are your mug press, because there's so many different types of mug press out there. I can only tell you and show you what I actually use with my mug press and what works for me. If you've got a totally different branded mug press that heats up at a different rate, then it might be a totally different experience to you. So my settings are baseline settings, and that's what I actually give out and show in my DVD, my training DVD. And also in my other YouTube videos as well. So basically, if your blacks are turning out brown, there's a very good chance that your mugs are overheating. You might have it on for too long, or the temperature's too high. What I would suggest you do, if you're using, let's say for example 180 degrees or 200, let's say you're using 200 degrees temperature, I would take 10 degrees off, keep the same time and try it again. Now bearing in mind, you may at the beginning find a little bit of trial and error, so you may not waste, but you may use a couple of mugs or 3 or 4 or 5 mugs. Don't worry about that, it's all part of your learning curve. Once you've found the right temperatures, everything will be all right. But normally if your blacks are turning out brown, they're probably being overheated. That possibly could be down to your heat press or the duration of the time bring one of them two down by say 10 degrees or whatever, and then try again. I also get people say that when they've set up their printer, the images, colours are not right. Now, I can only tell you what I use. I use the Sublimation R sublimation inks from Sawgrass, and I use them in my Ricoh printer. There's different types of Ricoh printer, they all should be the same, and they work in conjunction with the PowerDriver software, which you can download directly from the Sawgrass website. So that's what I've done when I installed it into my printer, and that's what you can probably do as well. Now, when you do that, in your drop-down menu, when you go to press print, for example, I use CorelDRAW for the printing software link up with PowerDriver. When you go to press print, there's a drop-down menu which comes up, and you normally see your printer in the drop-down menu. Well, you shouldn't be seeing your printer's name. You should be clicking the drop-down menu, and then you should look for the word PowerDriver in the in the drop-down menu. That is the software you want. By default, it might set up to your normal Ricoh printer, but you want to press that and then click the PowerDriver software, and you can actually set that in your printer settings as well. And if you're using the PowerDriver correctly and you've installed it correctly, you'll automatically reverse the image when you press the print program. So setting up your PowerDriver software is essential. And I also get people ask me, what's the problem I'm having with my sublimation inks? Do you recommend it in a like an Epson printer or through a CISS system, or even a CIS system which you can buy for the Ricoh printers? I personally don't use a CIS system with my Ricoh printer, because the ink that you're going to be getting isn't going to be the Sawgrass ink. So then you're changing variables about, and the inks 9 times out of 10 should come with, if you're buying a different ink than what I am, they should come with their own ICC profiles, colour profiles, and the supplier of the ink should be supplying you with them so that you can update your printer's profiles to the new colour inks. Sublimation inks don't normally work out of the box on standard settings. You have to have different profiles. So if you're having problems with colours looking right, and you're not using the Sawgrass inks, then your problem is with your colour profiles, not your printer. But also your manufacturer who's selling you the ink should be telling you that, you know, you need these different profiles. I don't recommend using any other printer than the Ricoh printers, definitely not Epsons. I've had many Epsons in the past, as I've mentioned before, and all of them have blocked up with nozzles, the fine print heads, because the pigment inks in the sublimation inks tend to block up the fine print heads in Epson printers. So I do get people say, I've got an Epson printer, I've got a CIS problem, and I keep getting lines and stripes coming across my pages and all stuff like that. Well, that 9 times out of 10 is probably due to head clogging. So what you'll have to do is to do a nozzle check in your printer's software, and then you'll see a pattern come out, and if that's got little bits missing out of it, you should then do a head clean. If that comes, then do another nozzle check afterwards to make sure. I've done them on Epson printers many times. You shouldn't really do them more than 3 times, because it can froth up the ink, and then that causes again another set of problems as well. So if you're running an Epson printer with sublimation ink and you're not using it very often, there's a very good chance you're going to have all these problems I've just mentioned. Banding, colours not coming out correctly, colours looking totally different when they're on the page. So my advice is to only use the Ricoh printers at the moment that I've used with sublimation ink, and pull away from the Epson printers because of their fine print heads, especially if you're a beginner and you're not using the printer on a regular basis. Them heads do block up. Right, let's take a look at the mug press now and see if it's up to temperature. Right, well, it's not quite there yet, so let's just put our wraps around our mugs. Now again, you just do this in the same old way, you know that. Now I've got these measured out. People ask me what the measurements are of my graphics. What I normally do, I go into Photoshop, I make a new box in Photoshop of 8.5 centimeters by 10 centimeters. So 8.5 centimeters deep by 10 centimeters wide. And then I will drag an image into that box, like that image there, for example, and then size it to the size of that box. I will then open up another page in Photoshop, and that will be an A4 page. So that A4 is the width of the actual paper, the transfer paper in total. So basically, I drag that image once I've created it onto the A4 paper, and then just position it, for example, at the top of the page on the left-hand side, and that then becomes the left-hand image. I then go back to the 8x4 page, which I've created, the little one, and I drag another image onto that page and then size it. Once it's sized to the correct size, I then drag that image onto the A4 page and move it next to this one, and that then becomes the actual mug wrap, as you can see there, to exactly the same size, sitting next to each other on the total width of an A4 paper. I do that 3 times in total. That's an A4 sheet, basically, what I've got there. So I do that 3 times in total, so that I'm not wasting any of the paper, and then I print that all out, or save it as a PNG file, as one big sheet of A4 paper. I then can print that out as and when I need them. If I want to change these pictures about, when I go to close the file in Photoshop, and it says save as, I save it as a Photoshop file, a PSD file, this whole original image, you could say. And when you save it as a PSD file, all the layers are preserved. So I've got 2 savings of this collage of images. So one is a PNG file, which I've saved, and that is the one that I will print out. And the other one is what they call your master file, which is your PSD file, which is your main Photoshop file. And that one, if you click on that and open it up, it'll open up with all the adjustments down the side. You can adjust or change things about on it. You can move the pictures about. And that is why you save normally, as I say, if you're looking at making changes to this at some later stage, save it as a PSD file, as a Photoshop file, and then you can come in and re-edit it and move things about. So anyway, that's a little bit on that as well, because a lot of people get confused with making alterations to an image once they've actually created it, and that's the way to do it. Save it as a PSD file. So I'm just going to wrap these around here, so bear with me. So I'll just wait for the mug press to heat up, and then we'll make our mug. I've just put the mug in, and the temperature's diving down, it's dropping. As you can see, degrees C there. So that's dropping because the mug has gone in cold. So this won't start heating up now. As you can see, it's on the heating up mode at the moment, even though the mug's clamped in. So as you can see now, I've got the handle closed in there. The mug is actually in there. The temperature's coming up now. It's not counting down yet because it's not reached our 180 degrees temperature yet. So once it reaches that, you should see this symbol then go off, and then it will start counting down. So let's just see if it does that. 178, 179. We've done it at 180, so we should see it counting down then. There we go, and it's now counting down from my 180 time, which I set it at. So we'll just let that do that now. And as you can see, the sun logo is coming on and off, which means it's still maintaining its temperature, and we're counting down. So at the end of this cycle, the mug will be cooked, and we'll hear a little audible bleep, and then we can take the mug out and then put the next mug in straight away. And again, it will start counting up. It will start heating up until it's reached temperature, and then start counting down again. So as I said, I'm back at trial and error time again. This is the first time I've used me mug press since I've installed the new circuit board into it. And this is all the first time that I've used these matte finish mugs, which I quite like the feel of. They feel like ceramic, like porcelain mugs on the outside. So I'll be very interested to see how these do come out. Yep, here's the bleeping. So I'm going to take the mug out. Just put it down there for a second to cool. And I'm going to put the next one straight in. As you can see, the temperature dives down because we've just put a cold mug back in the press. And then once it reaches its plateau, it will start to heat up, and then take it back up to temperature. And when the temperature reaches 180 degrees C again, then it will start the countdown. So that's that. Right, okay, so let's take a look at this. My first time at looking at these. Don't know what it's going to be like. Ouch. There we go. Throw that away. Well, as you say, I don't know if you can see that or not. It's a very sort of a matte finish. It's quite nice, actually. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with that. Good colour all the way through, although this is predominantly a dark coloured mug in black and white, really. But I'm sure you can see there that the actual image is nice and crisp and clear all the way around. Very nice. So that's the first one, and as I say, it's quite a nice finish. It's sort of a, I don't know, I can't really describe it. It's very, very matte, is all I can really say. There's no real gloss on it at all, and it's quite nice actually. So yeah, there's that one. Let's put that down to one side. Right, here we go, nearly ready. Seems to be working fine, this new idea, so this new circuit board, so I'm quite happy with it. There we go. Just take the mug out. Place that down there, and straight away I'm going to be putting the next mug back in. There we go, and as normal, as you can see, the temperature dives straight down when you put a cold mug in. We'll leave that to do that business now, and let's unwrap this next one, see what it looks like. Right, this is number 2. Again, mug is still very hot. Gotta be careful. Very nice. Yep. There we go. Let's show you this one. Again, one of my favourite films of the 1970s, which was Grease. I remember seeing that as a kid. And one of the old album covers off one of the old Top of the Pops albums that we used to buy when we was little nippers back in the 70s, this one was. And the only thing I will say is that I'm probably noticing that maybe the blacks are a bit brown, as you can see there. So I could drop down the temperature a little bit. As I mentioned earlier on, don't forget this is still a learning curve for me as well. But apart from that, again, everything's taken fine. There's no fading around the edges or anything like that whatsoever. So it's a really nice reproduction and another one to my own personal collection. Another question, a quick question that someone asked me yesterday was, they're obviously doing t-shirt, or they're looking at doing t-shirt printing as well as mug printing. And they asked me, could I use transfer paper and put sublimation ink onto it? Well, I personally don't recommend that. I don't know whether you can or not. I've never tried it myself, but sublimation ink is a heat activated ink which releases off of a sublimation paper onto your image, as opposed to a heated transfer, like an iron-on type transfer with a heat press. The inks are actually embedded into the actual transfer to seal them in. So two totally different types of paper there with two totally different inks. Both have their own independent jobs, so technically speaking, you can't really use a sublimation ink on a transfer paper, because a sublimation paper releases the ink onto your substrate, which is your mug, as a transfer will release itself and the ink onto your substrate in the way of a clear film or some sort of film. So no, you can't do that. There we go. Just switch it off and take it out. And let's have a little look at what we got here. Again, be so careful with these because they're so hot. Very nice. Oh, very nice. Again, really, really hot, this one. I don't know if you can see. Image reproduction is very, very good. And so is the colour reproduction as well there. With no fading around the edges at all, as you can see. Everything's taken lovely. And yes, another totally successful mug. Well, there you go. That's my new mugs I've just been trying out right in front of you. You've seen it the first time. The only difference I might make is just lowering the temperature a little bit, because I think that the blacks might be a little bit on the brown side. Not a problem. Again, teething problems, which you might get, and it's a matter of just trimming things up. Just drop it down by maybe 10 degrees, or drop the time down a little bit as well. One or the other, then you should get a good colour reproduction. I'm very pleased with that, actually, to be honest with you. And I like the feel of these mugs, and I like the finish on them. So anyway, there we go. Hope you enjoyed this little mug tutorial video. I hope it's got some good little pointers in there for you. Don't forget to check out my other mug tutorial videos, or if you're interested in the t-shirt printing as well, there is another playlist on my channel for that as well. And you also, if you subscribe to my channel, you'll know that when I update videos, you'll automatically get notified anyway. So anyway, there you go. Let's give you another look at these. I like them. I'll see you again in the next video. Bye for now.